Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Ajwa. Yes, this wig is an old wig. I don't have any link to it. It's just one of those old synthetic hair, but I love it. I don't even know where it was. I was looking for a few of my things, came across it and felt like wearing it today. So pardon me, but what do you think? Does it look super old? I guess I don't know. I feel like this is me in the next 10 years. I wish I could have this fake, luscious, sort of, big hair and all grayed up in the next 10 years. That is what I would wish. But yeah. Anyway, it's going to be my similar but better series where I speak about fragrances which are very similar in scent profile or even dupes of a very popular fragrance and compare them to know which one I think is a better option. So I have about 20 or so fragrances here, 20 or 23 fragrances in this video that I want to compare. The first one is going to be something that I have had a few people asking about. I remember when I spoke about Nuha Vanilla Pearl from Cadillac, when I spoke about this, a few people asked whether it's comparable to Care Confection or sugar, the rock sugar from Kali, and I told them it doesn't really give me that. However, I have a third addition to this. So it's going to be these three fragrances: Teriyaki from Latafa, Care Confection, and then Nuha Vanilla Pearl. First of all, I'm going to eliminate Vanilla Pearl. I'm going to eliminate Vanilla Pearl from these three fragrances because I really stand by what I said. They don't really give me the same thing. They don't. When it comes to Care Confection and Nuha Vanilla Pearl, they don't smell alike to me. This is all about the pear and vanilla and some strawberries and raspberry, and a bit of a greenness. I think one of the most significant difference I find between this confection and Nuha is the sort of vetiver. This doesn't have the note of vetiver, but I get that dusty vetiver, about this. I get that dusty quality of the vetiver in care confection, although it is not listed as a list. Whereas in this, it's a very clean vanilla, not as sharp and piercing, and it's also not as juicy. The pear doesn't come across as the most juiciest as compared to the one I find in care confection. So in this scenario, I'm eliminating this. It will give you a similar feel, but this is more milder, much more wearable for people who think the pear and vanilla are too intense in this is like a very wearable alternative, although it doesn't smell alike to me in any way. So in my opinion, I think Nuha I will eliminate from these three. However, when it comes to Teriyaki from Latafa and Care Confection, they don't share similar notes. This one has some leather and some suede and some labdanum, whereas in this one it's just a clean pear. The main difference I find between these two are in the opening. It is a dry down, which is very similar. At the opening, this one is a lot more juicy with the pear, like a very mouth-watering, juicy pear, whereas this one is not going to give you a pear accord. I think this one has apricot. It has the note of apricot, and vanilla and leather and vetiver and all those, sort of heavy notes, whereas this one is more about the pear and vanilla. However, when they dry down, I get a very similar dry down with the leather. This doesn't have the notes of leather, but there is something that reminds me of a leather accord in Care Confection, whereas in this I get that leather as listed as a note, but they smell very similar at the dry down. The openings are where the most significant differences are going to come across. But to me, I kind of feel like if you have Teriyaki, you don't necessarily need confection because the dry down comes in quickly and they smell quite similar, but this one is like on the more feminine side and more on the pear accord side, whereas this one is more a bit masculine, although very unisex to me. I feel like this could be the his and this could be the hers, sort of fragrance. So to me, these are quite similar, but I think this one is a lot more juicy and a lot more sweeter with the pear, and the vanilla, whereas this one is a lot more denser and a lot darker with the leather, but they sort of dry down very similar to me. So these are the two that I want to start with. Let me move on to another one here. I don't have the decants. I was hoping for a decant, but I couldn't. I chanced across a new fragrance shop in Accra Central yesterday, and I came across his confession, and apparently it's been compared to Celine black tie. I haven't come across black tie. However, Powdery, Anna Abiat Powdery from Latafa is one of my recent additions to my collection that I'm absolutely loving. And I understand black tie and Celine black tie, not black tie. His confession and this one are apparently dupes of black tie from Celine. So I was like, okay, just get to it. I was able to try it at the shop. I wanted the salesperson to give me a decant, but he said we're not selling decants. I have to just get a full bottle. But I was like, I already have this, so I didn't find a need to get a full bottle just to do a comparison video. Nowadays, I'm not doing that. The old me would have picked a full bottle just to do a comparison, but now, yeah. So I was able to try it, and actually, they do smell alike. His confession and this one, but I find like if there's any difference is the fact that this one comes across as a bit more musky, whereas his confession comes across as a bit more irisy, powdery, also that musky vibe. They all have that mandarin oranges, and that lightweight non-foodie vanilla, both this one and his confession. But I find his confession slightly, I think both are very unisex fragrances, but if I'm supposed to assign gender to them, I would say this is a little more to the feminine side, whereas that one is a little to the masculine side, just because it has a bit of an irisy lavender feel. There's an irisy lavender feel. It actually has a note of lavender where it is missing in this, but it's not a very heavy lavender scent. This is basically your very lightweight vanilla and some oranges and a powdery musk, very sensual. And I also find this one a lot louder than his confession. That one is like a more quiet one, although the bottle I was able to try is, you can see it's very macerated because it's been in the shop for I don't know how long, but it came across as quite mild and toned down, whereas even this one as a new bottle, I get something quite, it's not beast mode, but it's lingers and it's sort of, moderate projection. So I think performance wise, this is like slightly better than that, but the scent wise, they smell very similar to me. It's about 93-94%, where I feel that one has a little bit of an irisy lavender feel, and this one is more of a vanilla, mandarin or oranges and a musk, like a very clean, non-animalic musk, So those are the differences I find between those two. Between those two, I wouldn't say which is better. I wouldn't say one is better than the other. I think if you have one, you don't really need the other. I would say if you're a woman, this is like phenomenal for you. If you're a man, you can go for any of these, They come across as unisex to me, although this one leans a little feminine. So between his confession and Anna Abiat Powdery, I say they are all good, they're all good. But if you want something a little more feminine, go for this. If you want something more unisex, with a bit of an irisy lavender, and something slightly like incensey, smoky, something, with his confession. Whereas this one, it is not there, but they smell like 93-94% similar. So to me, I wouldn't choose one over the other. And I think each of them can replace the other, in anyone's wardrobe collection. So yeah, Anna Abiat Powdery and his confessions by Latafa. Let me go with another one here. As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to make it 3. Hold on. I'm going to make it 3 here. So this latest addition here, it's a decant here, but this is Vo Zingy, and this is Zingy, zesty, just a fresh green lemony. It feels like very fresh and clean lemony. It just feels balsamic and delightful. And when I got this Vo Zingy, something came to mind. I think it's inspired by one Zedjo fragrance that I'm not Terreno 21, but I'm not familiar with that. However, it immediately reminded me of this in my collection, Maya Natural Intense. It vibes similarly. Guess that I feel this one is a lot more green with the cucumber, and a lot more refreshing. There's a very refreshing balsamic quality about this. and it's just a very juicy cucumber scent with some musk and florals and some aquatic sort of touch, like a fresh clean aquatic touch, whereas the vo zingy comes across as more zingy, more zesty, but also very balsamic and a bit green and refreshing, very tropical summer. It gives me summer tropical, and it also has something like a hint of a liqueur, like something. It reminds me of those Moscow Mule, from Killian. It gives me a similar vibe with the I think there's something like martini, some alcohol sort of thing. I guess something like a martini sort of feel to it. Very, I think juniper berries, if I'm not mistaken, but it gives me that, juniper berries martini sort of feel, like a bit of a booziness, but not like a heavy boozy scent. Whereas in my natural intense, I don't get that, but they vibe very similarly. They vibe like very similarly. If you have one, you might not necessarily need the other, but I feel this one is a lot more masculine because of that sort of boozy, martini, juniper berry sort of feel. One other fragrance that it also reminds me of is going to be M. Michelef's gin tonic. It follows suit, with that same bright, slightly boozy juniper berry gin tonic. That sort of gin tonic, light, refreshing. That's sort of a bit masculine vibe. I think these two, the M. Michelef gin tonic and this one, come across as a little more masculine, whereas my natural intense is like more unisex, but they vibe very similarly. If you have one, you don't really need the other, unless you want a little more spice, then you can go for vo zingy. Very beautiful fragrances. Like, you don't need to think about them, like just easy grabs, signature scents worthy. So these two, between them, I'll say the same thing I did for the previous two. This, if you're a woman, even if you're a man, you can go for this. And the vo zingy, and then gin tonic from Emmy Kalev, if you're a man, they have that sort of juniper berry, scent to it, or that juniper berry martini sort of scent, and this one doesn't. It's more about the cucumber here, and I love them all. They are very similar, but it's going to be a hard one to choose which is the better alternative. But those are the differences I can give you between these three fragrances. The next pair I'm going to go with let me go with this Shagav Vanilla Toffee, and then another latest release from Cadlash, from their Lafayette line, Cocoa Brown. I did a review of this, and I will link it in the description if you have not seen it. This is Cocoa Brown, and it's supposed to have this like triple layers of chocolate. However, it doesn't give me triple layers of chocolate. It gives me more of a cocoa powder feel. But as soon as I smelled this Cocoa Brown from Lafayette, it immediately reminded me of Vanilla Toffee. The openings are very similar. It gives me that same thing, with the exception that this one feels a lot more of the butterscotch, whereas I don't get the butterscotch in this. But that sort of cow feel, if they had told me this one includes some sort of exotic coffee, I would have believed that, because it gives me that sort of cow or coffee feel I find in this, and that toffee gives me that cocoa powder toffee feel, but it doesn't give me triple layers of chocolate. It doesn't give me that. However, these two smell so alike. The openings are like 95% similar, but this is a more vanillic, buttery, forward as compared to Cocoa Brown. The dry down is where you get a difference. The dry down is where this maintains. This one is quite a linear scent, so at the dry down it maintains that toffee, toffee, butterscotch, vanilla. It's milky according, it maintains that, but this one loses all those things and it is left with like something quite like a faint cocoa powder and a hint of vanilla. So yeah, between these two, definitely this is the superior one. I'll say this is the superior one. This one will just put you, it's almost a very similar feel, but this one doesn't last as long. This is more linear. It's true to what it gives you from the beginning, and I love this. It's more of a grown-up scent even throughout the its wear, whereas this one sort of mellows down and becomes like a skin scent after a while, and you are left with that cocoa powder with a hint of vanilla, and this one maintains that butterscotch, that toffee, that milk, so those are the differences. And for me, I think this one is even smells a little cheaper, it has a cheap accord feel to it, whereas this one is like very superior in my opinion. So between these two, vanilla toffee and then cocoa brown, I would say go for or maintain your vanilla toffee from Swiss Arabia, but you can always give this one a try if you just want to know how similar they are. I'm going to go with another one here. These are going to be fragrances. One is a Middle Eastern fragrance. This has been compared to the Wedding Silk Santal, the Kingdom Hair from Latafa is been compared to the Wedding Silk Santal. I get that. I think I've even done that. I've even said it. It gives me a very similar feel. It gives me that, but not necessarily the same. However, I have been testing one of my designer fragrances, Jimmy Choo Le Parfum, and I find them very similar. I think these two are more similar than the Wedding Silk Santal and then the Kingdom Hair. If you are comparing those three, I find the Wedding Silk Santal, like I'll eliminate that one out and work with these two when I'm comparing pear and then vanilla creamy fragrances and florals. These are all about the notes of pear, juicy pear, but they don't come across as like those mouth-watering juicy pear. You get a very, it's not tart. The pear I find in both fragrances are not tart. They are realistic, but not necessarily the juiciest of pear like the pear I find in Pear Potion by Paris Corner. But it gets a creaminess to both fragrances. They are both like a very creamy, creamy vanilla and the pear and some florals. They both have florals. Yeah, they are heavy on the florals, heavy on the creaminess, and heavy on the pear. But they are not like realistic, juicy Pear Potion pear. They vibe, they are very similar. As a matter of fact, they are like 93-94% similar to me. They vibe more similar to me than the similarity between the Kingdom Hair and then Care Felicity or the Wedding Silk Santal. When you smell them now after maceration, Care Felicity, it smells so different from the Kingdom Hair. So I will not say it's a dupe for that, but they vibe similarly. However, I think if you come across these two, they vibe more similarly to me. They are very creamy, vanillous, a hint of some florals, very lightweight florals, and that's creamy vanilla, and the pear. So yeah, between these two, I don't know which one I would choose. I love them both. I love them both. Price point wise, why not this? Price point wise, why not this? Even this one is not the most expensive. I think even this 40 ml, I got it for like 30 something, so it's like affordable if you want to try it out. But I think if you're looking at your budget and you want 100 ml, I think the Kingdom Hair is 100 or 85, if I'm not mistaken. It's great value for your money if you are comparing it according to prices. But scent-wise, they are great. Guess that this one has like issues with longevity. It doesn't really last, it doesn't really last. So I think in this scenario, I'm going to give it to the Kingdom Hair by Latafa. Yeah, just because the longevity has issues with that. Let me go with another favorite of mine. So this doesn't even need any, I don't even have to do any comparison, because to me, nothing else, I don't know which other dupe fragrance can overtake Liquid Brand. When you compare Liquid Brand to Parfum de Marly's Altar, the same thing. So I don't know which other brand can overtake this. I know Maison Assurès, something, I'll put it on the screen, is also known to be inspired by a tab from Parfum de Marly, Art of Nature 2 or 3, one of them, also inspired by that. However, to me, I don't think anything can overtake Liquid Brand as the best inspiration for our attire. However, Ahmed Magribi did try in the form of brulee. They have done a phenomenal job in the form of brulee. Although to me, the weird thing about brulee is the fact that it starts off as Liquid Brand and then ends off as vanilla powder to me. It starts off as Liquid Brand. You get almost like the same spice, cardamom, the bourbon vanilla. You get the same thing, the boozy bourbon vanilla, and the creaminess. You get those musky florals, you get everything, but it dries down. The deepest dry down is going to give you vanilla powder, and that is the main difference between these two. So for me, I think if you want you want value for your money, both fragrances are phenomenal. If you want an exact one-to-one clone of Altair, yeah, nothing else comes close to this. But if you want something like two in one, you get Altair and then you get um um that other powder, vanilla powder. Why not this? The longevity for both fragrances are phenomenal too. So between this, scent wise, this, but this is going to give you two fragrances at the same time. So if you want that sort of weird but lovely combination, yeah, these two are going to be it. Let me move on to these two here. How did I even forget that I have this fragrance? I got a bunch of decants and samples, Oud Maracuya, and I should have done a comparison when I was doing the Huia from Paris Corner. I don't know how I mixed that. It just got mixed with my things, and I thought I don't have it. Apparently I ordered this as part of a haul I did some few months ago, and I have not even gone through those samples yet. So this is Oud Maracuya from Maison Crivelli, and I'm going to compare it to these two fragrances, Pink to Pink from Latafa. This is my decant. I have the full bottle here, which I have not opened, so I'll get to that once I want to open it, But this is my Pink to Pink from Latafa, and this is going to be the Huia from Paris Corner. So amongst these three fragrances, I have them here. I have the Oud Maracuya here, and I have the Pink to Pink and the other ones too here. They are similar. They are similar. Both Huria and then Pink to Pink are similar. I know there are several other dupes when it comes to Oud Maracuya. However, these are the two that I have, Pink to Pink and then Huria from Paris Corner. To me, what I can say is Pink to Pink is going to give you the more fruity tone of Oud Maracuya. Is going to give you the same scent profile, but that guava lychee is there. It's very pronounced, and it gives it quite a fruity, feminine appeal. Whereas when it comes to Huraya is just a straight up Oud Maracuya. However, there's something more citrusy. I get something like a more citrusy tone to Huraya than I get in the original Oud Maracuya. Oud Maracuya doesn't give me anything citrusy. But when I compare the two, the Huraya and Oud Maracuya, I get a bit of there's a noticeable citrus sort of vibe that I get in this that I don't get in the original, but it's going to give you a very similar feel. And Pink to Pink is going to give you that guava lychee addition, which is like beautiful and a lot more sweeter. Because of that lychee guava, there's this sweetness that is you can get that is missing from the original, and then the Huia from Paris Corner. They are like quite similar. They are quite similar, but if in the air they are similar, but if you spray them side by side, then you notice the difference between the two. Between these two, I think the closest to me is going to be Huia. Between the two, the closest is going to be Huia, because it maintains that same oud, maracuja, leather. I think leather oud and some mossy, sort of feel. It maintains that, and some wood. It maintains that. But Pink to Pink is more fruity. You get that sweetness, that guava, the lychee, and I think that is what separates the two of them. So between them, I also find Pink to Pink a lot more feminine, leaning, and then the Ria a lot more masculine, leaning, because it's more of that deep woods, and I think it has some rose, a very dark rose, and the leather and the woods and the oud. So yeah, for me, Pink to Pink is beautiful. Huria is also beautiful, but I think Huria is more masculine to me, and a little bit of on a zesty, bergamoty, citrus feel, whereas the original doesn't have that, So those are the two that I can compare when it comes to Oud Maracuya, and I love them both. But I think between the two, my preference is going to be Pink to Pink. That is my personal preference. I have already prepared a dedicated video for this fragrance. It was part of the fragrances I requested for during Christmas, and I'm now receiving some of them. Some of them were part of things that I received through C. And this is Sualef Scent of Seduction. As a matter of fact, I received this just before I came back to Ghana. So I just sprayed this one and I couldn't bring it along. The bottle is like very weighted, so I couldn't do anything overweight. I didn't have money to pay for that. So Sualef Scent of Seduction, I have already done the video, but I don't want to speak much about it. However, It smelled so similar to one Latafa fragrance that a lot of people wrote off. A lot of people didn't understand this fragrance. They were like, what is this? The name and everything was not appealing to a lot of people. Raw Human. That is all I can say for now. I'm going to work on that video and then upload it as soon as possible. But these two, same thing. It has just one significant difference. Just one significant difference. And I'll give you all the details in that video. But these two, same thing. But slight difference. Just a slight difference. So these are the other, two I wanted to speak about. Let me move on here to Creamy Biscuits by Paris Corner. And it's the better one of the two, the Cake Temptation and this one. I actually like this one a lot more. It's just like a very creamy biscuit, as the name indicates. You get that sort of creamy, buttery, biscuity, like a lightweight biscuits are called. Get it here. It is beautiful. However, it smells similar to Cherosa 71 in my opinion. To me, I think they took inspiration from Cherosa 71. It's like Cherosa 71 without the biscuity accord. It has that same sort of caramel, butterscotch, that vanilla macadamia sort of feel, but this one of course has a lot of macadamia, whereas this one does not. But it vibes very similarly, that same feel, just that this one has that sort of biscuits accord and this one has more of the macadamia. But in the air, they smell very similar. They are just going to be very beautiful if you layer them together. I personally have not tried that yet, but they play off each other. They smell very similar. They dry down very similar. It's almost like 95% similar to me. So in that scenario, I'm going to say, even though they are quite similar, my preference is them 7-1, just because this one has something more excuse me, this one has something more buttery and a lot more intense and a lot more delicious. I'm not saying this is not delicious. It is the better of the two, the Cake Temptation, and it's the better of the two. And I think this one is like really growing on me. I actually like this one a lot more than the Cake Temptation. However, this I think is a little more superior to Creamy Biscuits, but they vibe similarly. If you've been meaning to get this, but it's like it's not available where you are, I think this is a good replacement for that. If you want to know how this one smells but it's not readily available to you, this is a good alternative to that. Just that this one is like less creamy and this one is a lot more creamy, nuttier, more nuttier, and this one has that biscuit accord. And I'm going to go with the other sister here. The other sister also has something quite similar to me. It smells like something, as I think, in as much as I've compared Cake Temptation to Spanish Vanilla in the past, I think in my last or the last two similar but better video, I compared Cake Temptation to Spanish Vanilla. However, upon further investigation and test wear, I have realized this is very similar. Very similar. Probably they took inspiration from Pink Sugar, Red Velvet. I think that is where the inspiration is coming from. To me, when I smell this, it somehow it just puts me, now that I'm trying to get to know it a lot more, it gives me Red Velvet from Pink Sugar. And I think my bottle is also not here yet. That is why I'm showing you the box, but it gives me that. It's now putting me in that same mind frame. Red Velvet to me had that sort of cakey raspberry. I think it has raspberry or some berries, has that strawberry, raspberry. It has strawberry, yes, the same strawberry and that cake accord. And it also had or has that synthetic vibe. It has that synthetic vibe, but this one is a lot more synthetic and a lot more screechy. Now I can confidently say this is inspired by this. I feel this is inspired by this, but it's also quite similar to Spanish Vanilla, but that one is like a little different and a lot more better in my opinion. Among those three, I think Spanish Vanilla is going to be my favorite. But between these two, of course, Red Velvet from Pink Sugar Aqualina is going to be my preference. Whereas the Ministry of Gourmand is still screechy, and I've promised to give it a full year to see how it matures. That is going to be it for today, and I hope this video found you well. Please do not forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I hope to see you in my next one. Take care. Bye.